Hi and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at the cable cast on. This is the second cast on in my series of 7 go-to cast ons that make up your cast on toolkit. This is a collection of good workhorse cast ons that'll cover a lot of projects for you. So, cable cast on, this is another 2 needle cast on, as I said. Clues in the name. You need 2 needles to cast on. With 2 needle cast ons, you're not so likely to get too tight as with other methods, but a quick tip of the day, if you still find your edges are a bit tight, then use a larger size or 2 of needle. Just stab myself there. Use a different, a slightly larger needle for your cast on, but don't forget then to switch to the right size when you do your first row. Okay, so why would we use cable cast on? Its characteristics then, it's quite similar to the knit cast on in how we do it, but there's a key difference in how we actually cast on the stitches. This makes it much more firmer and less elastic. It gives a really neat appearance, particularly if you're knitting stocking stitch. It's a great all-purpose cast on. It's also good for adding stitches at the ends of rows. If you're, like if we're doing a T-shape or something and we need to add some stitches, it's good for that. It's also really good for buttonholes where we're casting off stitches and then casting them back on, because that edge is quite firm. It's going to be up to the sort of wear and tear that it'll have to, it'll need for dealing with buttons. Okay, so that's why you would choose this cast on over others. And we'll stop chatting now and we'll crack on with the cast on. So pull up a seat, pick up your needles, off we go.
Okay, so here we have the cable cast on. This is what it looks like. It does look lovely with stocking stitch. Why it's called a cable cast on, I don't know, but I would hazard the guess it's because that edge does look like a little cable. Okay, so it's another 2 needle cast on. As we did before, we leave about 4 to 6 inches of tail just so there's enough to sew our ends in, and we start with a slip knot. Okay, and for those of you that struggle with a slip knot, I'll just do it really slowly, or you might not have done one before. There we are. I'll put that down the back there, and I'm gonna nab that and pull that up. Okay, so I've got my working yarn attached to the wool and I've got my tail end, and what I like to do with that then is stick that under there between my hand and needle, just so I don't get in a mix and start knitting with the wrong end. That's happened a time or two. So we start this cast on very much like we might a knit cast on. So we go in that stitch as if to knit it, we wrap our yarn, we pull that through, and we need to bring that needle to the front, the tip, to slip that stitch over knitwise. It's important that we always do it that way with this cast on. Okay, so we now got 2 stitches on the needle, and this is where it differs now from knit cast on. So now we're going to go in, we're going to not go actually into a stitch though. Now we've got 2 on the needle, we're going to go between those 2. Okay, so that's a nice, if I pull that out a bit, you can see I've literally gone through the gap between. Make sure it's a clean sweep. You don't want to be catching any bit of the other stitches. Okay, so I've gone through there. That's where we're working into each time now. And okay, so I've gone in between the 2. It's very similar to knit cast on. I wrap the yarn, I bring the loop through, I bring the needle tip of my left one round to the front because I'm slipping that stitch over knitwise, and that one's done. Okay, and then from now on I'm going to always be going between the last one I've just done and the one before stitch, and make sure, as I say, it's a clean sweep. You don't want to be getting too tight with this as you're doing it, otherwise you're really going to struggle to get your needle in there. Okay, so here we go again. Okay, bring your needle around to the front, and there you are. You're really near position now to go straight in. So we've got this one, slipping it across, and then we've got the gap we can go in. So I always think, I'm just, you know, your hands kind of automatically do these things after a while, so I'm just trying to think exactly what's happening there so I can help you. So when I'm doing that and I'm slipping the stitch over, really before you then tighten that up by pulling your working yarn, get your needle in there quickly. It's gonna, and then tug on the needle. It's gonna make it a lot easier to get that needle in there while that stitch is loose, so before you've had a chance to tighten it up too much. Okay, so as we did before, carry on with this until you've got about 20 stitches. Now don't worry about what it's looking like. It's not going to necessarily look very even at this point, okay? And if it doesn't look even, don't worry, because it kind of has a magic way of evening itself out once you've knitted that first row. Okay, and that is your cable cast on.
Okay, so that's the cable cast on for you. Have a play with that in terms of how you like the look of it, depending on the stitch pattern that you're going to be starting off with. I think it looks great with stocking stitch, as you saw in the sample, but I'm personally not a fan of it if I'm doing garter stitch edges. I think there's a much better cast on for if you're having a, you know, garter stitch edge, and we'll be getting to that later in the series. The best way to know if it's going to work for your project is basically to try it. Do a little swatch. It's the only way you can really be sure, because things can still surprise you. And actually a great suggestion by Leslie Ann Bester is do it as part of your tension swatch. We've all got to do swatches for tension. I'll look at you like that, the non-swatchers out there. So if you're going to do your tension swatch anyway, you might as well try out your cast on at the same time. And I know it seems a faff, but better than getting, you know, many inches up your sweater and then thinking, not sure. By the time you've got further up it, you're thinking, no, I really don't like that. That's not the time to decide that you don't like that particular cast on. Anyway, have a play, and you'll just find you'll get to know what you like, and the right way is the way you like. There aren't any rules with that, okay? So as I said in previous videos, at the end of this series of videos I'll be compiling all the videos and notes etc into a tidy PDF that will be free for you to download. That link will mysteriously appear below this video at some point, or by all means join my email list and I'll give you the heads up when that's available. So next time then we're going to be looking at a variation on the cable cast on. We're going to be looking at something that's really good for ribs, but is still quite easy and simple to do. So I do hope you join me next time, and yeah, thanks for coming. If you found this of value, don't forget, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you soon. Bye bye for now.